The story I will share now is about a terrifying event here in our neighborhood when I was still a child. Back in 1980, there was an old homeless man who often appeared whenever darkness fell. He always pushed his old cart, which sometimes had traces of blood and emitted a foul stench. Everyone was afraid of him and felt disgusted, especially the children. Aside from how revolting his fly-infested cart was, we were all puzzled as to who he really was and where he came from, because in the daytime, we never saw him around. Because of that, there were rumors that he was a ghoul. His eyes were always wild whenever he encountered people, like a creature craving human flesh. During that time, I was already in the habit of playing with some other kids in our area, even if it was getting late outside. We would still be outside playing hide and seek, one of our favorite games. When the game started again, I immediately ran away from the person who was it to look for a hiding spot. I went to a dark and overgrown garden near the road. From my hiding place among the plants, I saw the old man pushing his cart. He was drooling and making strange sounds, almost like a monster. I got nervous when he glanced in my direction, and I took a small step backward out of shock. In that unexpected moment, I accidentally stepped on a dry branch, causing a loud snap. I crouched down and covered my mouth with my palm, trying desperately not to make any more noise. I forced myself to look again at the strange old homeless man. I was even more terrified when I realized he was no longer there. The only thing left on the road was his cart. Because of that, my heart beat faster, knowing that the old homeless man was likely just around somewhere watching, waiting for the perfect time to strike. I slowly moved my feet to get away from that area, but then I suddenly hid behind a large tree when I saw the old man again. He was kneeling and hunched over something, a corpse of an animal. What is he doing?" I whispered, stuttering. It was a chilling sight, especially when the old man turned toward my direction with a chicken hanging from his mouth. I screamed, "Ghoul!" as I ran as fast as I could. Fortunately, it wasn't yet completely dark, so I was able to run quickly. Even so, I couldn't shake off the fear that gripped me at that moment. I was uneasy while running, glancing behind me because I was worried the old man might follow me. When I looked ahead again, I ran straight into another tree, knocking me unconscious. Everything went dark, and I only woke up upon hearing my big brother's voice and the laughter of the other kids. They were all gathered around me. "Jason, wake up. What happened to you? Why are you sleeping here on the grass? Mum says come home because it's almost nighttime. It's dinner time," said my big brother. Afraid of being scolded by my mother, I followed my brother. "Hey, that's not fair, Jason. We're all playing, and you ended up taking a nap here. That's why I couldn't find you," teased one of my playmates. The horrifying scene I witnessed earlier was still fresh in my mind. As I walked home, I couldn't relax, and I kept looking around, worried that the homeless man might be lurking nearby. I was sure the man I saw was a ghoul. He was eating a dead chicken. I know no normal person would eat raw meat. "You're late again, always playing around. Don't you know there are many missing children reported in the next town?" My mom scolded me the moment I got home, meeting me at our small house's door. She also told me about those missing children in the next town. "I'm sorry," I replied, lowering my head. "Okay, you and your brother go wash up, but before that, lock up all the windows and doors, because I'm sure deceptive creatures of the night will start roaming around soon," my mum said, making my hair stand on end. "Mum, you're scaring me," I said, because at that moment I couldn't deny I was frightened by my mother's warning. "Why?" "It's true that ghouls exist. In my opinion, a ghoul is probably responsible for the disappearance of our chickens here in town. And those missing kids in the next town? Definitely a ghoul too," my mum concluded, which made me recall the old homeless man from earlier. I wanted to tell them about what I saw, that old man eating raw chicken, but I decided to keep quiet for fear my mom would scold me again, saying I was just messing around and causing trouble if I got into danger. That night, I couldn't sleep immediately because I couldn't get that image of the old man with the cart out of my head. I really believed that the rumors were true, that he was a ghoul. Eventually, I managed to sleep, but in the middle of the night, I suddenly woke up because the dogs outside our house started howling, as if they were seeing someone out there. While everyone else was fast asleep, I lay in bed, anxious, listening to everything around me. I got up and tried to wake my mum, but no matter what I did, she wouldn't wake. I nudged her arm, but she just stirred slightly and went back to sleep. Outside, the dogs and chickens were in an uproar. I couldn't stand not knowing what was happening, so out of curiosity, I tried to peek through a small gap in our old wooden wall. Because the moon was shining, I could make out that the old homeless man was outside, carrying off our chickens. I wanted to wake Dad to tell him, but fear paralyzed me. I silently lay back down and hid under a blanket, straining my ears to listen to the noises outside. The earlier barking of the dogs and the clucking of the chickens slowly died down. The next morning, I woke up to commotion outside the house. I heard my dad's angry voice. He was furious because all his chickens were gone, and only bloodstains were left where they had been. My tears nearly fell when I found out our 3 dogs had also died. All of their bodies had deep scratches and strange bite marks. No human could have done this, and it certainly wasn't an ordinary animal that killed these dogs, one of our neighbors remarked as they gathered in our yard. My God, what kind of evil is looming over our town? It seems like ghouls love to prowl around here, my mom added, her face revealing her anxiety. That incident was followed by so many similar cases that stories of horror rang out throughout our town. When our place was gripped by fear, everything changed drastically. Whenever night fell, no children played outside anymore, and the entire area was eerily quiet. Every house had some sort of charm hanging on its windows and doors. Garlic and salt were among our methods of protection. I also helped hang garlic in our windows because we believed it was an effective way to ward off ghouls. Before sundown, we would scatter salt around the house. If most people in our town were already asleep by 8 p.m., my big brother and I would still be wide awake inside, keeping watch, because a ghoul could break in at any time. I was terrified, especially since our house was built from rather flimsy materials. Our roof was held down only by heavy logs. Several nights passed peacefully with no attacks, and the missing livestock incident subsided. That only fueled people's suspicion that the old homeless man was indeed a ghoul. Most believed he was behind the shocking events in our town. Many thought our protective measures had driven him away, and that we had effectively sent the ghoul packing. But fear gradually returned to our community once it was announced that 3 women in town were pregnant. One of them was my mum. When I found out she was pregnant, I didn't know if I should be happy because a new member of our family was on the way, or frightened because surely the ghoul would come for her. Night after night, my older brother and dad stayed on high alert, making sure Mom and the baby in her womb were safe. Whenever Mom felt abdominal pain, she would say it was a sign that an evil spirit or a ghoul was trying to enter our home. To counter that, Dad would burn sage near our windows and doors, believing the smoke would drive away creatures of the night or any malevolent spirits spawned by demons. One morning, we heard the terrible news that one of the pregnant women in town had died, supposedly attacked by a ghoul. That made me even more afraid of what might happen next. "We have to be careful," said my big brother. "You're right. I bet another pregnant woman will be targeted by the ghoul tonight," my dad replied. At the age of 11, all those supernatural stories I heard from the people around me only stoked my fear. Strange, unexplained phenomena in our town caused me so much anxiety that I'd sometimes experience sleep paralysis. My mind couldn't help but wander to thoughts of ghouls. Eventually, I even came down with a fever due to the constant worry and fear. Another night came, but we were lucky because no ghoul came to our house. However, tragedy struck for another pregnant woman who also died, again, rumored to have been a ghoul attack. "My God, what are we going to do now, Ron? I don't want to die," Mum uttered anxiously. "Nina, calm yourself. Don't worry. That won't help our child," Dad told her. "How can I not worry? How can I calm down when there were 3 pregnant women here, and now I'm the only one left because the other 2 have died, supposedly killed by a ghoul? This is your fault, Ron. All you give me is trouble ever since we started living under one roof. You love making babies even though you know this place is crawling with ghouls," Mum cried out angrily. "I don't know anymore. Maybe this town is cursed," Dad muttered, letting out a sigh. "What if we just move someplace else, or at least stay with the neighbors for a while?" Mum asked anxiously, her words coming out in a stammer. I could see the terror and concern on her face. After all, time seemed to be racing. Morning turns to night all too quickly. "Nina, have you lost your mind? Our house is sturdier than the neighbors," Dad said. But eventually, night fell, as we all dreaded. While we were quietly eating dinner, something heavy landed on our roof. My heart pounded out of my chest. Clearly, the ghoul had not come through the windows or the door, but had landed on our roof instead. We could feel it trying to tear off the roof, and I felt like I couldn't breathe, even though we hadn't actually seen it. Dad shouted for help, saying, "The ghoul is here!" We were lucky that our neighbors rushed out with machetes and wooden clubs, scaring it off. As an 11-year-old, all I could do was cry and wait for everything to be okay. The ghoul kept coming back to our house, so Mum tried to sleep lying on her side so that it couldn't suck out the baby in her womb. It looked like the ghoul wouldn't give up until it got what it wanted from my pregnant mum, but every night it failed to get her, so presumably it moved on to the next town. We heard about a spike in missing livestock and children there too. The rumor was that pregnant women in that area were also being stalked. If they weren't killed, they would miscarry. It seemed the ghoul's habit was to go from one town to another. After causing misery in that neighboring town, it would return to ours to look for fresh victims. Indeed, after the disappearances of livestock in our town, more cases would crop up, and even those who were seriously ill became victims. One night, people spotted the old homeless man pushing his cart filled with rotting, foul-smelling meat he was trying to peddle to the townsfolk. Everyone realized that these were the remains of missing livestock and children who had vanished for some time. It finally dawned on them that this homeless man was responsible for the disappearances and deaths of livestock and children, as well as some other victims. Since the moment I saw him eating raw chicken, I knew he was the ghoul who took my dad's chickens and killed our dogs. He was the ghoul. "Kill that ghoul!" one neighbor shouted angrily, obviously intent on destroying the vile creature. "Slaughter him!" another joined in, followed by even more angry shouts. The old homeless man slowly walked away, then suddenly broke into a run. Before anyone could grab him, he fled into the woods and escaped pursuit. Everyone was left with only his horrifying cart, which made many people retch. Nobody knew where the old homeless man had gone. Probably he was a ghoul who fled far away, or hid because the townspeople already knew who he was. Maybe he searched for another place where he could deceive people. Therefore, we must not easily trust strangers we encounter. We must be cautious at all times, because these days, it's hard to discern who is truly human and who is a ghoul. Remember, creatures of darkness are deceptive. Because I enjoy watching scary shows on television and love reading horror stories about vampires, I thought of writing in to share my personal experience from when I encountered a ferocious half-bodied demon as a child, back when we were still in Nebraska during those days. Let's just say my name is Jessica, not my real name, and I am 44 years old at present. The story I will share happened in the year 1991, back when I was in 6th grade. In our small town in Nebraska, one day, while I was walking home from school, I decided to pick some ripe apples beside the road. During those times, the roads weren't paved yet, and nobody really owned the apple tree I saw, as the houses in our area were quite far apart. You could say our town was remote, and I had to walk quite a distance to reach our house. While I was picking ripe apples, I placed each one I picked in my pocket. I was humming a tune while I picked, entertained by the sight of so many apples on that tree. As I was busy gathering the apples, an elderly woman called out to me, carrying a small woven basket containing her homemade cupcakes. After calling my attention, she walked slowly toward me and spoke softly. "Child, would you like to buy some of my cupcakes?" the old lady asked me, smiling in such a way that I could see her unusually reddish teeth when she opened her mouth. "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I don't have any money with me, so I can't buy your cupcakes," I politely replied. "Oh, is that so, child? Well, if you don't have money, I'll just give you some, because you seem kind and respectful," the old woman added, saying she would offer me her cupcakes at no cost. "Oh, ma'am, thanks, but my mum specifically told me not to accept food from strangers. I really can't take the cupcakes you're giving," I said again. Still, she kept insisting and pushed me to accept the cupcakes, claiming they were extra delicious and freshly made. Just as I was about to accept them, my mum suddenly arrived. She had stepped out of our house to find me because it was getting late and I hadn't come home yet. At that time, my mum was pregnant and was due to give birth any day. When my mum reached me, she asked the old woman why she was talking to me, but the old woman didn't answer. Instead, she stared intently at my mum's swollen belly, grinning slightly. Since the old woman wouldn't respond, I told my mum she was offering me some free cupcakes. As soon as I said that, my mum gave the old lady a stern look. Then she took me by the hand and said we should head home. Because of my mum's harsh tone, I apologized to the old woman again for declining her cupcakes. While my mum and I walked along the rocky road back to our house, the old woman remained standing by the apple tree. I glanced back at her and saw that she was staring at us with piercing eyes, as if angered by my mum's behavior. As my mum and I quietly walked, she scolded me for talking to strangers, especially a newcomer to our town. At that time, rumors were floating around about a vampire or half-bodied demon roaming the area. Some people claimed to have seen it preying on a few farm animals in our town. It wasn't uncommon to find dead cows or cattle with their insides torn out. "If I catch you talking to strangers again, Jessica, especially that old lady, you'll be in big trouble with me. I'm doing this for your safety, and you know how much I love you," my mum said gently, but with deep worry on her face. "Yes, Mum, I promise I won't do it again," I replied respectfully. When we got home, I placed my small backpack on a wooden bench and rushed to my bedroom to change into my house clothes. After I changed, I went back to our small living room, grabbed some paper, and began sketching. When I was little, I loved to draw figures of people and sometimes houses near mountain ranges. I was really into art, like my mum. While I was busy drawing, my mum was occupied in the kitchen, getting our dinner ready. In those days, my dad was almost never home. He would only return on weekends. He worked as a carpenter in different districts around our state, which meant he couldn't come home every night. While my mum bustled around the kitchen, I sat there drawing in our living room. Suddenly, I noticed the same elderly woman from earlier standing just outside our house, near the front porch. The door to our house happened to be open at that moment. She stared at me intently, her eyes looking wild. I hurriedly called for my mum, telling her that the cupcake peddler was outside. My mum came over, asked me what I needed, and I pointed out the lady's position. But when she checked, the old woman was gone. She had simply vanished into thin air. "There's no one out there, Jessica. Maybe you're just imagining it," my mum said. Then she calmly closed the door and returned to the kitchen. I felt uneasy, so I quit drawing for a while and decided to play with my doll, one my dad had bought for me. As we rested on the bed, a sudden gust of wind rattled our roof as though a massive bird had just passed overhead. My mum got up to check the window, trying to see what was causing all that flapping, but she couldn't spot anything, so she walked into the living room to lock our front door and shut the windows on either side. She then grabbed our small oil lamp to use as our light for the night, deciding that candlelight alone might be too risky while sleeping. After lighting the oil lamp, she placed it on the living room floor near the entrance to our bedroom, then came back to lie down with me. We slept side by side on a simple mat with no other bedding. My mum gently stroked my hair until I fell asleep. The next day, we woke up early as usual. I'd grown used to rising at dawn since my mum did so many tasks alone. "Let's have breakfast, Jessica. We still need to go to the market afterward to buy our basic needs," she said. Once we had eaten, she took her wallet and reminded me that we should get going. The market was a good distance away, which meant we had to walk several minutes to reach the parking area for motorcycle taxis. From there, it was still another several minutes of riding to get to the market. Holding my mum's hand, I noticed she was struggling to move because of her advanced pregnancy. She could have given birth that day or the next. When we reached the place where the motorcycles waited, my mum and I immediately climbed on the back of one, and the driver eased it forward carefully, mindful of her condition. While riding, the driver started talking to my mum. "Mum, in your situation, you should really have your husband running these errands for you. It's dangerous for you to be out and about. Do you know there was another dead cow discovered near the fields? Its stomach was ripped open and all the organs were gone. Folks are saying that some half-bodied demon is responsible," the driver explained. "Is that so? Haven't they identified who this half-bodied demon might be? Seems like it's attacking many farm animals around here," my mum said, asking if anyone had suspicions about who might be prowling around. "No, ma'am, we still don't know. There are so many strangers in town," the driver replied. Their conversation ended as we arrived at the market. I got off the motorcycle first and helped my mom down. Inside the market, she only bought our essentials: sugar, milk, some cooking ingredients, vegetables, a few catfish, and lemons. Then we made our way back to the motorcycle area. My mom carried a small bag with bread, while I carried another bag with the rest of our groceries. We asked the same motorcycle driver to drop us off in front of our home. When we got to our house, the driver helped us carry our groceries and set them down by our front door. We thanked him, and right as we were about to go inside, that same old woman suddenly appeared again, holding the same woven basket of homemade cupcakes and an extra paper bag, which contained sausages this time. Seeing her, my mom's face showed instant annoyance, and she spoke quite tersely. "What do you really want, ma'am? Didn't I say we're not interested in your cupcakes? And how do you even know where we live?" My mom snapped, irritated. "Ma'am, it's just a coincidence. I happened to pass by and saw you both getting off the motorcycle, so I thought I might offer you these sausages," the old lady replied. "A coincidence, really? My daughter said she saw you standing outside our home yesterday, near the porch. Was that just coincidence too? And sorry, but I don't like sausages. No matter how much you offer them for free, I'm not accepting," my mum retorted. "If that's so, I'll just give them to you to try. I promise they're delicious, freshly made," the old lady insisted, pushing the bag of sausages on my mum. My mum lost her temper and spoke to the old woman in a raised voice. The old woman got angry in return and snapped back, "Ma'am, You've shown me no respect. Your tone is far too harsh. You'll regret turning down my offer of sausages, and you'll pay for raising your voice at me. Mark my words." "Listen, Mom, I'm not disrespecting you. I'm just speaking loudly because you won't stop pushing me. Didn't I tell you several times I don't want those sausages? Even if you gave them for free, I still wouldn't take them," Mom said sharply. Hearing this, the old woman went silent. She just glared at my mum with wild eyes, then spat on the ground in front of our house. I could see her thick red saliva hitting the dirt. Then she turned away and walked off into the distance. My mum quickly told me to head inside. Before I went in, I grabbed the grocery bags. "Don't go outside today, Jessica. Play here in the house. I have a bad feeling that old lady might come back," Mum said anxiously. "But why would she come back, Mom? You didn't do anything wrong," I asked. "Just do what I say, Jessica. No more questions," she replied. Once we took our groceries in, Mom asked me to lock the door. I did as I was told and locked everything. Stuck indoors, I decided to go back to drawing. I pulled out some paper, a pencil, and crayons from my backpack, while Mom returned to the kitchen to cook our lunch. Partway through my drawing, I heard a loud thud, like a rock hitting our front door. Mum must have heard it too, because she came right into the living room, asking if I knew what caused that noise. I told her it sounded like someone had thrown a rock at our door from outside. She tiptoed to the window and peered out first, seeing no one there. Then she unlatched the door. As she opened it, she gasped so loudly that I ran over to see what happened. Lying on our front porch was a severed cow's head. Fresh blood splattered around it. Mum screamed in terror, and I started crying, clinging to her leg, because I was so frightened. Quickly, she slammed the door and locked it again, as well as all the windows. Clasping hands, we went to the living room, and I helped her sit down. The shock must have triggered abdominal pain, since she was so close to giving birth. Though I was shaking with fear, I rushed to the kitchen to get her a glass of water. She drank it slowly, and I gently rubbed her swollen belly. "Mum, is Dad coming home tomorrow? I'm scared," I asked her. "Yes, Jessica, your dad will be home tomorrow," she replied briefly, still catching her breath. After a while, she felt a bit better, so she went back to cooking. I stopped drawing and decided instead to assist her in the kitchen. I chopped the ingredients for the catfish dish she was making. Once she finished cooking, we ate our lunch, but I could see her face was still pale and uneasy. "Mum, are you all right? You look so pale," I asked with concern. "I'm fine, Jessica. Just eat," she said simply. When we finished, I offered to clear the dishes and wash them myself. "My child, you're so hardworking and kind. Thank you, Jessica. Even though you're still young, you've been so helpful," she said affectionately, giving me a kiss on the cheek. "Oh, Mom, I take after you, of course," I replied, smiling. I gathered the dishes and washed them while my mum lay down in our bedroom to rest. My terror subsided a bit, since every door and window was securely locked. Once I finished washing, I checked on her in the bedroom. "You're done with the dishes, Jessica?" Mom asked when I walked in. "Yes, Mom, I'm finished. What are you looking for in that box?" I asked, seeing her rummage in a small wooden trunk. "I'm trying to find the charms given to me by a folk healer. These protective items called a saint's medal and a spiritual cloth," she explained. I didn't really understand what they were, so I just watched her pull them out of the trunk, where they had been kept since my grandma's time. After a bit more searching, she pulled out a dried plant root wrapped in paper, plus a small jar of lemon-infused oil. She opened the jar and rubbed the lemon oil onto her swollen belly. Then she asked me to get an old plastic bag, a sturdy cup, and a few of the lemons we had bought earlier. When I came back, she unwrapped the dried roots, placed them in the bag, and gently crushed them using the cup. Once the roots were crushed, she poured them into the jar of oil. Then she sliced the lemons with her fingernail. letting the juice drip into the jar, while the seeds spilled onto the floor. That afternoon, Mum decided to cook dinner early. She felt better after applying the oil on her belly. As she busied herself in the kitchen, I went into our bedroom to play. My toys were kept in there. While playing, I noticed one of those lemon seeds on the floor. It sparkled strangely, so I picked it up and studied it. It looked different from any other seed, almost like a small, shiny white stone. I was fascinated, so I slipped it into my pocket. When twilight came and the sun finally dipped below the horizon, I went to ask Mom in the kitchen, "Mom, what are you cooking?" "I'm making some fried peas and eggs, Jessica," she replied with a quick smile, continuing to stir in the pan. By the time she finished, it was already getting dark outside. She plated our food, and we were about to eat when we heard a series of loud knocks at the door, so forceful and repetitive that my heart pounded with fear. We froze at the dinner table. Mum told me to stay beside her. Together, we headed for the bedroom to retrieve the jar of lemon-infused oil mixed with dried roots. Sure enough, the liquid in the jar was slightly bubbling, and my mum clutched her belly, feeling pain. Meanwhile, I felt this sudden heat against my thigh, almost like it was burning me. It was coming from my pocket. Panicking, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the shiny lemon seed. That was what was heating up. Even though Mom was in pain, she noticed what I was holding. "Where did you get that?" she gasped. I explained that it had fallen from the lemons she'd squeezed earlier, and that it was now so hot it felt like it might burn my skin. She took the seed from my hand, placed it in a cup, and told me to get her some more lemons. Then she squeezed additional juice onto the shiny seed, submerging it in the liquid. "Mum, why are you soaking that strange white seed in lemon juice?" I asked. "Jessica, that's no ordinary seed. It's a special charm. Did you know that having a charm can bring good luck? More importantly, it can help protect us from evil creatures," Mom explained. Before I could ask more, something massive thumped against our rooftop again, making a loud, flapping sound. My mum told me to stay right next to her because she could sense something menacing circling above our house. I was terrified. I knew she was implying the half-bodied demon was out there. Though our roof was sturdy, we were afraid the creature might tear it open. Moments later, Mum felt such an intense pain in her belly that she started screaming uncontrollably. Her water broke. It was clear she was going into labor. I was overwhelmed with fear, but the sight of my mum in agony forced me to act. She tried to muffle her cries by biting down on the collar of her shirt. She was bleeding from the lower part of her body, and I could see the baby's head beginning to emerge. She slumped against the wall, holding the baby. Seeing that she was about to give birth and hearing her frantic screams, I realized I needed help, even though we lived far from any neighbors. Despite her warning not to leave the house, I couldn't just let her and the baby suffer. Summoning every bit of courage I had at age 12, I told her, "Mom, stay strong. I'm going to run and get help. I won't let anything bad happen to you or the baby." She tried to stop me, but I wouldn't listen. It surprised me too. I was so young, yet I felt determined to save her and my sibling. I grabbed the lemon charm from the cup where it had been soaking, slipped it into my pocket, and rushed to the front door. Barefoot, I unlatched the lock, stepped onto the porch, and quietly shut the door behind me. I saw that cow's head still lying there, blood on the boards. I glanced around to see if the old woman was lurking. Satisfied that she wasn't, I sprinted as fast as I could toward the main road. I didn't look back, only focusing on running. The path was lit by moonlight so I could see the rocky ground. Stones dug into my feet, but I ignored the pain. All that mattered was saving my mom and the baby. As I ran, I heard flapping behind me, so I looked up and nearly collapsed when I saw the terrifying creature in the sky. It had only half a body, its insides and entrails hanging out, with large bat-like wings. Its glowing eyes and sharp fangs made it even more dreadful. I leaped to my feet and bolted, but the half-bodied demon was quick, descending toward me. I screamed, hoping someone might hear. My screaming threw off my stride, though, and the creature seized the chance to grab my shoulder with its clawed hand, lifting me off the ground. "Help! Somebody help me!" I yelled, kicking my legs as I rose into the air. Despite the searing pain in my shoulders, I forced one arm free. I remembered the charm in my pocket. With all my might, I yanked the charm out and drove it into the creature's open torso, right where its guts were dangling. It let out a furious, anguished howl, thrashing mid-air. We weren't very high off the ground yet, so I kept screaming. Finally, I saw a group of men running toward us, armed with machetes and sharpened wooden spears. They managed to surround the demon, which was still struggling close to the ground after I jabbed it with the charm. One man grabbed me and pulled me away while the others set upon the beast, hacking at it viciously. I was sobbing uncontrollably, noticing how smoke seemed to rise from the part of its body where I had stabbed it with the charm. Once they killed it, the demon couldn't revert to a human form. I never confirmed if it was truly the old woman because I was too worried about my mum's condition. I begged some of the men to help us because my mum was in labor and my dad was away. Immediately, 2 of them accompanied me, while the others burned the demon's remains. One man, a motorcycle taxi driver, dashed home to get his vehicle, then we hurried back to our house. Inside, my mum had mostly delivered the baby on her own, but the cord was still attached. She was exhausted and in pain, holding the newborn. The 2 men helped steady her, and I held my sibling. Soon, they took us both to the nearest clinic in town, where the midwife and nurse treated her. Another nurse cleaned the wounds on my shoulders. I thanked those 2 men profusely for assisting us. I'd forgotten about the half-bodied demon and the charm. All that mattered now was my mum and the baby. The next day, my dad arrived at the clinic, having heard about our ordeal. He rushed to see us, promising he wouldn't work so far away anymore. If he had to travel for a job, he'd make sure he came home every night. That's all for my story. I hope it inspires other young people to love and respect their parents, to show them true care while they're still alive. We can't be with our loved ones forever, so we should cherish them. The end. Thank you. This was Mr. Horror once again, and see you soon.